all of the moms' poor decisions have impacted their daughters years later and have turned into this, like, generational trauma. Like, moms, you need to get it together. Kristen here, and today we are breaking down Pretty Little Liars Original Sin, episodes 6 and 7. I gotta say, I think these were some of my favorite episodes of the season, as we go back to Rosewood with tons of original Pretty Little Liars references, and spend an evening at the carnival. So let's break it down. So we kick off right where we left off last week with Tabby and Imogen kind of talking through their assaults together. We learned that Tabby went to a party, she got Chip to cover for her at work, and she got really drunk, and on her way home she was assaulted by someone. She doesn't know who it was. It wasn't Tyler, but she's just been struggling being around men in general, and that's why she lashed out at him at the Halloween party. I think it really has just like kind of set off like a PTSD in a way, and Imogen's the first person that she's told about this. Imogen confirms that she was sexually assaulted, that she knows even less. She was at the beach with a bottle of vodka after her big fight with Karen at her party, and confirms that that's how she got pregnant. The girls are questioning, like, could this have been the same guy? Which honestly I wouldn't be surprised by. And now we know that there's basically this serial rapist in town, which is just disgusting and terrible. This episode though is really Tabby and Imogen focused. They go to meet the man that called Imogen at Halloween and said he had a lot of information to share. His name is Joseph Englund, and I was like, ooh, is this a reference to Robert Englund, aka Freddy Krueger? Anyway, this guy goes by Crazy Joe, which seems like a warning.
Crazy Joe.
Definitely a person of interest.
And he reveals that he and Angela were friends and fellow misfits in high school, and that he was in love with her, but a group of popular girls kind of swept her under their wing. They pretended to be friends with her, but really just bullied her, and it's definitely giving off like Jawbreaker vibes. He says that when Angela died, her mom just completely snapped, went to the high school with a butcher knife, threatening boys at the school, and that she got sent to Radley Sanitarium in Rosewood. Yup! That's right, we got our first really big connection to the original Pretty Little Liars. That means it's time for a road trip to Rosewood, people! The Radley Sanitarium actually was shut down and turned into a hotel, and they're told that there's a guy named Eddie Lamb who's a maintenance manager and has worked in the building for many years, and he might have more information. And another huge Easter egg here with Eddie Lamb, who was a character in the original series. He was a nurse who worked at Radley. He was very dedicated to his patients. He knew all of these secrets. He was seen a lot in seasons 3 and 4 of the original series, and he ended up having a bond with both Spencer and Mona. And bringing him into the mix, we know we can trust Eddie Lamb, so it's exciting to see that connection and what he's going to reveal. They end up using some of their Halloween money to try and stay at this fancy Radley hotel so that they could wait and try to talk to Eddie, and it was just so fun. They're doing face masks, they're relaxing, they're eating chocolate-covered strawberries. I really feel like the show thrives when they add in those just fun friend elements, and I really liked seeing this. We also get another Easter egg when Tabby decides to kind of go off and explore Rosewood a little bit, and she ends up in Ezra's books, aka Ezra Fitz. When it's time for the girls to finally meet up with Eddie Lamb, they have a whole new actor in there. I guess they were trying to show like the passage of time. The guy's aged a bit. He brought an old log from the sanitarium, and we get to see that Rose Waters was visited by 6 different people who would sign in with the initials A. Waters. The first 5 are their moms, just, you know, the feeling of guilt and going to see her. And the 6th person, we don't know who that is. We also get another really interesting Easter egg here where they talk about kind of what happened after the sanitarium closed. They shipped some patients off to the Sisters of Quiet Mercy in Riverdale, while some people were just released. I just thought that was really fun to bring in that Riverdale reference. I mean, Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa, that's one of his other really big shows. And now you've kind of tied the Pretty Little Liars universe and the Archie Comics universe together. Through speaking with Eddie, they also end up learning that Angela was also sexually assaulted before she killed herself. And so now that's 3 different women in this story who have been raped. I just think that's really devastating. Like, I get that they're not gratuitously showing anything, which I appreciate that, but also it just feels a bit weird that the show claims that they want to tell the story through a female lens and empower young women of color, but they're centering so much of the story on like one of the worst things that can happen to a woman. It just feels a little bit off. I'm a little bit wary, but I guess we'll just see how they continue to handle the material. Meanwhile, my theory from last week ended up being right. A does go and target Kelly, which results in her dropping out of the Swan Lake Ballet, and the lead role goes back to Farron. There's just something about that I found a little bit interesting. The fact that like maybe A doesn't know everything, because it's only after Farron confronted Kelly and we saw it through the perspective of A, and it seems like A was like, oh, is Farron right? Is this really Karen? It just reminded me of a scene earlier in the season when Kelly goes to the principal's office, pretends to be Karen, but the principal can't tell the difference.
Principal Clanton.
Ms. Beasley?
Karen. Did he recognize you? He completely thought I was you.
I do think, though, that Kelly's who she says she is. I think this is like a little bit of a red herring they're throwing in there. And speaking of Farron, like we said, after a lot of ups and downs, she is back in Swan Lake playing the Black Swan. Things get even more intense. She has a lot of anger towards her mom, especially about this surgery that she made her get when she was a kid because of the scoliosis. And thanks to A, we find out that that surgery was not actually necessary. Her mom lied to her because of her own sick need for perfection. So for the show, Farron ends up taking a new photo that shows off her scar. She writes this really intense new bio, basically blaming her mom. It was deep. It was very intense. And then her mom sees it and like freaks out, runs away, ends up getting into this big car accident. Luckily she ends up being okay, but I feel like she's blaming Farron for her car accident when also like I don't think that what her mom was doing was okay. Like, it's Farron's body. She should be able to choose what she wants to do and what makes sense. And the fact that her scoliosis could have gone away on its own, like, I just didn't think that that was right. And now because her mom forced this unnecessary surgery on her, she's been dealing with chronic pain like most of her life. Farron ends up calling out her mom's poor decisions and she won't let them continue to impact her life. And I was just like, ooh, that was so deep. Because honestly, I feel like that's one of the big themes of this show is that all of the mom's poor decisions have impacted their daughters years later and have turned into this like generational trauma. Like, moms, you need to get it together. Getting into the next episode, it's time for the town's annual carnival. Starting with Mouse, Steve has been following her. He's being really creepy. He even tells Ash that he's her dad. It's just like a lot. And this is when we finally start to learn all the pieces of Mouse's secret. It turns out that when she was a kid, a man tried to walk away with her at the carnival. And that's like the childhood trauma that she's been dealing with. Her moms have said like this man was trying to take you. He didn't end up taking her, like they stopped him, so like, yes, that's scary, but there has to be more to the story than this, right? So Mouse actually ends up pulling an A and anonymously texts her mom, scaring her into finally telling her the truth. It turns out the man who was trying to take Mouse wasn't a stranger at all. He was her real father. Her mom lied and said she didn't have a father and that she was born through a donor, but the reality was that a couple was looking for a surrogate and Mouse's mom volunteered. They didn't have a real contract though, so that when she was gonna have the baby, she decided she wanted to keep her. That just seems a little confusing to me, and like, I don't know if that's how that would really work in the real world. How would they even be able to stay in the same town if that happened and not be like on the run, right? Like, this guy isn't trying to press charges and like prove the paternity and, you know, figure something out. I don't know. I just thought that was a little off. But regardless, to see Mouse kind of pull an A made me think, you know, even more that anybody really could be A, like even maybe one of the girls or one of their moms or the principal or the random nurse at school. Like, literally the options are endless. I thought it was also suspicious to find out that Steve had known who Mouse was because of her mom being in a support group for people whose children were taken. It just makes me suspect of like, is he targeting them? Is it going to turn out he's A? Is it going to turn out he's Mouse's real dad? Or is he just like a weird guy? I don't know. The carnival also sets up a romance between Imogen and Chip, which to be honest felt a little sus to me. Especially since Chip has been secretly pining after Tabby. It just feels like him and Imogen sort of connected out of nowhere. You know, like it's kind of late already. We're on episode 7. But the two of them are working together on this school project where they have to take care of a fake baby. I always love a storyline like that. I think it's so fun. They end up bonding a lot and he ends up inviting her to go to the carnival with him, and he does seem like a nice guy, and you know, he's developing a crush on Imogen, which I thought was sweet, and they do share a kiss, and it seems like he wants to be there for her. Maybe I'm just sus of everybody now, but I'm like, what are his motives? And I think Imogen, you could see in her face that like she does want a romance, but also is trying to be realistic of like, she's pregnant. When it comes to Noah, her mom claims that she wants to get clean and is finally going to give up drugs, but she's just lying to her, and honestly, I think it's really bringing Noah down a lot. It's stopping her from joining the track team and doing something with her life because she's constantly trying to take care of her mom. And then on top of that, they sort of hint that her boyfriend might be taking some kind of like steroid or performance enhancement, and it just seems like Noah's story is dealing with all these other people's problems, you know, these other people's potential addictions. I also thought it was weird that they didn't show the confrontation per se or just the aftermath of Noah's mom getting fired and, you know, their relationship and having a conversation about that, because Noah's the one who tattled, basically. They just sort of skipped over it. And I do think that there's a lot of moments like that where it feels like there's so much going on that they just kind of like skip ahead a little bit versus sinking into each story and really developing it to the full extent. I just think they're rushing things a little bit, and I think it's messing with the pacing. And then both of these episodes have a 1999 flashback that shows, again, what one of the moms has done to Angela. This one is around Farron's mom, Corey, and how she convinced Angela to get a big A tattoo on her arm because she said all of them were going to do it, and then ditched her. And again, just the Scarlet Letter references here are very strong. And then the other flashback is around Mouse's mom, Elodie, and how she and Angela actually had a secret romance, but when the other girls found out about it, she lied and said, like, Angela attacked her. The episode ends with Tabby having an idea of how they can figure out who assaulted her and Imogen, and it connects something to the school's blood drive. So this was quite a jam-packed 2 episodes. We learned a lot more about everybody's secrets and just how much their moms are pulling them down with their generational traumas. I loved all the Easter eggs to Rosewood and the original Pretty Little Liars, and I do think there's some really cool parallels in these episodes, but I'm also a little bit worried about how they're going to tackle all of these sexual assault storylines, especially when they're claiming they're trying to empower women in this series through the lens of horror. I hope they end up going the route that Tabby was for her film class project and just like switch the narrative. I will say I do think at times these episodes are a little bit too jam-packed and aren't focused enough on the main story ahead, so things can get a little bit muddled. I also feel like Noah's getting the short end of the stick here. She has the weakest storyline. Like, what is she really doing other than like supporting these 2 people that have their own addictions? Give us something more. Like, it just feels like they don't know what to do with her. I would love to hear your thoughts on Pretty Little Liars Original Sin episodes 6 and 7. Make sure to leave a comment down below and let me know. Share your theories. I'm curious about how you guys are feeling.
Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and if you want to talk more TV and movies with me outside of the comment section, check out the exclusive Discord available on my Patreon at patreon.com/kmaldo. If you like this one, you can check out more of my videos right over here. See ya!